This material is made available to you by or on behalf of the University of Melbourne under Section 113P of the Copyright Act 1968. It may be subject to copyright. For more information, visit the University Copyright website.
You have to adapt it. I show an example in the tutorial. That means, okay, that's pretty much the standard for the HD or rough marks. Okay. There's no strict template for your poster. And also the marks is not only rely on the poster. The poster only accounts for, I think it's 15% of your total performance. So we will assess your content, your poster, and also your speech, your performance, while you delivering the presentation. So far, has anyone not have a group yet? Okay, cool. Again, here's the current registration I received. So far, we've got 16 groups, which is, I think the number is rough 41 students. Okay, so that means nearly 2/5 of students hasn't registered yet. No, maybe more than that. 3/5. Okay. And has any students you think you submit your group registration? However, I haven't recorded in the Excel. So this is your group, and that's the first member in your group. So this is pretty much the schedule. And if you find that the schedule does not fit you, let me know as soon as possible. Maybe by Monday. Okay, so we have to sort it out by Monday or by Tuesday, at least. All right. Okay. I think that's pretty much would like to say in regard with. And another thing is that I'm sorry. For the assignment 1, when I set up the total mark, I set up like 15%, but that is actually 10%. I will modify the total mark, and the results will be published by next week, maybe Friday or after your presentation. Okay. All right. So let's just take a little bit time, recall what we learned last week is cross-sectional data. So this is the cross-sectional data. When we modeling or estimate the model or regression the cross-sectional data or cross-sectional models, there is one big assumption. That is all the values of each variable, all the variables are random variable. That means the values in each variable, they are not correlated with each other. Okay. However, that is assumption, and this assumption can hardly be achieved in the real world. So what we do for the cross-sectional analysis to delimit this the effects of this assumption, that is we have to expand in the sample size. Okay, that means the bigger the sample you use to estimate the model, the the more accurate is your are the results of your model. And then let me think this circumstance. So, for example, if we grouping the cross-section data based on the suburb, okay, and then we create the data set for each suburb, and also we can estimate the model for each suburb. So in that case, we can generate the features or the results for individual server, and then we can also use these results or use this estimation compare with the results based on the whole model or based on the aggregate model. And again, as I mentioned, we assume that there is no autocorrelation across the space, or we assume that within the suburb, within each individual suburb, the values of each variable, they are not correlated with each other. So, for example, the house price does not correlate with the house price next to it. Okay, that's the assumption we automatically made while we using the cross-sectional data analysis, and that is not true, right? It does not reflect the case of the real world, and especially in the real estate sectors, the price does correlate across the space. So it's like, for example, in this suburb, okay, it's Asphodel Gardens. We can find there are many houses which is valued $490,000. So it could be randomly valued. It just depends on the structure, the size, the land of the size, the neighborhood. However, it could also be because, for example, this property was sold maybe in August at this price, and then a person who buy a nearby house in September, they will reference to the sales price, and then probably they are willing to pay the same price for a quite similar property. So in that case, the houses related to each other in different places, and also there are maybe some relationship or correlation across the suburbs. Right? So maybe the house price in Boeing may also influenced by the house price in Berwick. This correlation cannot be answered if you use a cross-sectional data. So that's probably limitation, or the big limitation. Is one of the big limitations of cross-sectional data, is that we just assume all the values in each variable, they are not correlated with each other, and also the variables, or even between the variables, they are not correlated to each other. For example, the one bedroom won't influence the house in Boulder. So that's the assumption we made while we estimate a cross-sectional data. Then maybe we can think about the following question or problem is that I'm not sure how many of you guys choose the similar topic, is that will a house price be influenced by a public nearby? Right? So it is quite normal we say, okay, whether the house price in, for example, in Box Hill will be influenced by a public parks located in Box Hill, and how much, what's the extent the house price can be affected by public parks nearby. Okay, so then maybe if we think a step further, so if within that suburb you may find that there are several parks rather than one parks. So how can we capture that kind of effects? So does all the public parks have the same effect on the house price? All the effects will be different. And if it's different, what is the factors makes the effect different? It's just because the internal feature of the parks, or it's also because the location of the parks as well. And just as we talked, so will the house price within the suburb can be influenced by the house prices nearby. Okay, so it's like if we are going to, if we say, okay, this is house A in Box Hill, okay, when we analyze or estimate the house price, will this house, will the price of this house be influenced by the price of other houses located in Box Hill, or even in other suburbs? So that comes to a solution that we need some maybe special data analysis, because the cross-sectional data, it does not contain any geographic or the location information, although we try to simulate by using other attributes to simulate this kind of geographic information. However, it does not or cannot fully reflect the geographic information. And that is why we need the spatial data analysis. So that is today's lecture's content. So first we will probably go through the spatial data analysis and what is spatial data and the spatial dependence. And also we will have a quick introduction to QGIS, okay, which we can use to capture or to transform the geographic information into some statistics or mapping. So concept of spatial analysis. So this is kind of, because the spatial analysis is not compare with maybe the cross-sectional data or time series data. Is kind of a new analysis techniques, okay, and it's still developing. So long as the progress of our technology. especially in the in the internet and the digital era. I mean, if we think about the big data or the monitor, so it becomes more and more useful. And it's kind of a philosophy. It's like, do you believe all things in space are correlated? I mean, it's because all the model, or what we see, the theoretical model we build up is not build up on the spatial analysis. We just because spatial analysis is a technique or method we use to analyze some social or economic or issues, and they still adapt the theoretical model that's used in certain area. However, I mean, just because someone they think or they believe all the things in the space are correlated. So one example, the common example is that we will be influenced by our friends, right? So, for example, when I was in the college, I'm not that kind of very hard-working student. So what I did is that maybe 1 month before the examination, I will just find some really working hard students and just stay around with them and go to the library, go to the self-study room, just sitting with them, and it works. Although I cannot achieve the highest mark, however, it can save me with fail some subject. All right, so it's like their performance influenced my performance. And also, if I say, okay, what are you looking? Right? And then she was affected. I'm sorry about that. So seriously. I mean, however, just this kind of, however, the effects is not just between she and me. Maybe student in the left in the right side, in the left side, and in the back, you will be affected by the shot, by the question I just mentioned. However, the effects is different maybe because of your personality or because of the location you are seeking. So this kind of special, or the philosophy of special effects is like, okay, everything they are related, and the effects can be spread across the space. Okay, and for example, in the real estate sector or the housing market, it's like we think or we believe the house price is a special dependence. Okay, so I mean, rather than or on top of the house, the properties or the characteristics of itself, it can be affected by the information in the surrounding areas. For example, it may be affected by the house here, by the house price around here, and the effects is two direction. While this house is influenced by the other house prices, it also influences the house price in the other properties. So that's why normally we call this kind of special effects. I mean, however, the thing is that there is no certain explanation of this kind of special effects. What we can do is that probably we can use the spatial analysis techniques to capture or to simulate this kind of effects. But when we explain this kind of effects, it's back to the economy or social or geographic theory. For example, is like one to explain the effects is that because the movement of people, right? Or maybe if it across states or maybe across the suburb, it could be the transfer of investment money. So people trying, the previous researchers, they try to explain the special effects based on different hypotheses. However, there is no uncertain or very clear conclusion why it comes. And then another issue we use spatial analysis to investigate or to explore is the spatial intergenerative. So maybe in the common language is the difference. So why the house prices in this area are different from the house prices in that area. So how does and then this comes to another issue is the spatial cluster. So why those house prices have or share the similar or the common patterns, or even they located in different locations. So these are the major issues we are going to explore by using spatial analysis or by using spatial data analysis. However, in this subject, the main purpose, we do not require you to explore or address all the issues. Maybe you can just focus on this one. So it's like, okay, we can explore or depict the spatial patterns of one thing. And we are not going to require you guys to capture the spatial effect. Which is just the signal, because the calculation behind this for this model is very complicated, and later you will know why it is so complicated. However, this is just give you an idea what the spatial analysis is, and it's not what you think. Okay, we just estimate for example, the effects of these things on house prices. That is not exact spatial analysis. So one is this is the definitional description of spatial data. It's quite straightforward. It's like spatial data is the data that identify geographic location of features and boundaries on the Earth. So it's like a piece of data, so long as they can reflect some, clear location features or boundaries, we can recognize that data as spatial data. So for example, here, this is our property. And then we can find out that for this property, it contains the information like this. So first, transaction value or the house price is $540,000, and the type of the property is house. And also we can find the longitude and the latitude coordination is as such. And these two depict the location of the data. So in this case, we can find it's kind of two or maybe two attributes of the spatial data. One is the house price, and one is the house type. So here we can find what the spatial data can contain. One is the value. So the value could be quantitative, or also could be qualitative. And also it contains the coordination, the geographic coordination, where in this case they use the longitude and the latitude coordination to indicate the geographic information. So what's the unique characteristics of spatial data you can find? Or what's the difference between this one and the one we usually use, or we used in the previous period when we see data? So actually, spatial data is kind of a collection of vectors. It's not just a collection of values or collection of numbers. It's a vector. So when we say vector, it may have at least two, and I mean for spatial data, normally at least three values or numbers. Okay, one is for this value, or the value for its attributes, and two numbers or two values for its geographic location. So in that case, if we are going to calculate or regress or estimate or analyze the spatial data, we will do it within the context of vector calculation or matrix calculation. So that's why the calculation or the estimate or estimation are so complicated. Then maybe I'll just give you a quick briefing comparison between cross-sectional data and spatial data. Okay. For example, again, we are going to what is this topic? Okay. So we are going to address this topic. Okay. Will a house price or will the house price be influenced by the public parks nearby in Box Hill? So what we do if we are going to use a cross-sectional data analysis, normally we will use the hedonic model, right? And then we build a theoretical model where the house price is decomposed into like four categories, like the structure, land, neighborhood, and location. Here, again, we try to simulate, or we try to capture the location information while we using the cross-sectional data. Okay, we use the neighborhood information, and we also use the location information. So how do we capture the location information while we do the cross-sectional analysis? For example, in this case, the neighborhood, maybe we will use some values of the parks, where probably we can use the number of parks, or maybe we can use the total areas of the parks to represent the neighborhood or the location information in Box Hill. So it's like, okay, maybe there are 1, 2, 3, 4 parks. There's 4. And also we use the distance to CBD to represent the location. So maybe it's like 20 kilometers away from the CBD. Okay, that's what we do in the cross-sectional data analysis. However, that estimation has some limitation. For example, One is that the parks in other suburbs. Shall we include the park in the nearby suburbs, or not? Or how do you define the boundary of both? So how do you think that those parks will influence the house price, and those parks will not influence the house price? That's the thing the cross-sectional data analysis cannot address. What we can do is that probably we can estimate or test the model, include more parks and see what's the estimation, and then exclude and then try to define or clarify what is the boundary is. And another thing is that the location, right? Here we use the distance to CBD. However, this information cannot identify the location of Boxview only. So, because based on the distance to CBD, what it gives us is not a point. It gives us a circle, all right? Or maybe it gives us a square delineation, or maybe a circle. So all the suburbs with located on the edge of that circle, they all have the same location and information, or geographic information. So that is the limitations we use cross-sectional data to address the question. Okay. However, sometimes it doesn't mean we have every time we estimate or we do the analysis, we should adopt spatial data. Sometimes we just don't have the data. So, and then the cross-sectional data is the only choice we can use, right? However, I just say it's might not that accurate, and however, the advantage is that this one is right. And how do we use the spatial data? If we have that kind of spatial data, how can we address this question? So traditionally, spatial data, we use a spatial contiguity grids. That is, for example, we define a spatial unit. Most of the time we use the regular grid. So it's like, for example, we define the spatial unit for this research is a 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer square grid. Then we set up this kind of spatial unit. And then we can use that to identify the continuous neighbors. For example, maybe we just expand all the squares across the map. And then we can say we can define that the square or the spatial units which share the common boundary with the one of interest, or they share the common vertex. They can be defined as the continuous neighbor. And then based on that, we can give them coordination. So for example, in this case, we define or we clarify, we clear Boxview, or the one of interest is IG. So the longitude and the latitude coordinator is IG. And then at this point, we can we can calculate or estimate the coordination for other locations. For example, this one is I minus 1g, so because they share the same longitude, latitude, and then maybe the square next to it is I minus 2. Then in that case, we create a system which we normally call is like a coordination reference system, and which we can adopt to give a location, identify an identical coordination. So by using the coordination, we can identify the location clearly. So if, for example, when the coordination is Ig, it's definitely this square or this spatial unit, and maybe there was some other special units. They have the same distance to the CBD. However, they will have different coordinators. So the first step is like we in the spatial analysis we create a coordination reference system, and then we can, based on that, to calculate to estimate the spatial dependence. So what is the spatial dependence that can be considered to be existence of a functional relationship between what happens at one point of the space and what happens in the elsewhere? Is like, for example, in this case, the house price. So the house price, the house price in Boxhill will be correlated to the house prices in other suburbs across maybe Victoria or maybe Melbourne or even Australia. So that's the assumption in the hedonic model with the spatial data. So it's like here we can see the data change a little bit. One is also structure, land, neighborhood, location, and also we try to capture the spatial effects, where in this case the spatial effects is that the price, RG, so with the spatial coordinator, and also the park, the information of parks, and RG. So that is if we are going to use the spatial data to address this kind of questions. That is how the data looks like. And here's another question: is that how can we capture the effects or in the regression model? Because as I mentioned, these are vectors; they are not numbers. We cannot estimate them with the numbers, right? So we have to convert those vectors into numbers or into some format which can be calculated. Then here's another thing: is a spatial length and a spatial weight. So spatial length is the weighted sum of the value in the neighbors, which is used to capture the spatial effects on the variable of interest. For example, in this case, if we are going to represent the spatial effects of house prices, how do we do this? Is that we estimate the spatial effects of price through some of the weighted price in the other suburb. For example, here in in box Q, we are going to estimate the spatial effects on the house prices in box Q. Then we will give this one a weight, and then time the house price in this square or in this spatial unit, and we do for the rest of the neighbors, and we sum them together to generate a single number, and then we can use that into the regression models. And how to calculate the spatial weight matrix? Or so here is the spatial weight. So where we call it, normally we call this W. So for example, if we are going to calculate the spatial weight of this suburb, which is I minus 1, G plus 1, we normally use the relative geography locations between box Q and the one we are going to calculate it. So for example here, normally we use what do they call the UDO distance is like we and the reverse of UDO distance to estimate the weight, and then we can use that to calculate the spatial legs, and then we can put the spatial legs in, use the spatial legs to represent this spatial information or this geographic information of house price. Similarly, we will do the same for the parks, and then we can estimate the model through the regression techniques. So this is what we do for spatial analysis. I mean, oops. So here we just use this one to replace the price and the IG. And definitely you are not going to do this for this subject just for the assessment purpose. I mean, however, why I mention this is that I just want you to know or want to have aggregate picture or complete picture of spatial data analysis, although probably in this subject what you are going to experience is just maybe mapping, visualization, or identify some spatial patterns or clusters. However, I mean, spatial analysis can do much more than what we are going to experience in this subject. Okay, and yeah, so then that is what I just mentioned. Is just like kind of old story of spatial analysis, or how does the spatial analysis comes from. And the traditional method, or the contiguity algorithm method, it has some very big limitation. One is that there is no consistent standard, or there is no consistent what we say, the coordination of reference system. So for example, for each single research, we can create the reference by our own interest. So for example, in the case we just mentioned, we use like 2 by 2 kilometer square, and in some others they probably use 5 by 5 kilometers, or maybe smaller or bigger. So it's like there is no unified standard, and this causes another problem is like there is no generic application. Is that the one or the findings you generated or you get might not apply to other cases, just because the defined definition of your reference, and also, again, it's less accurate information because we know the 2 by 2 kilometer spatial unit is very huge, right? So it's like 4 square meters. So maybe just in front. Is that that big? Yeah. So it's still a very big unit. And I will say, because of the advantage of progress of technology, then here's one called the geographic information system. So they are not from the property sector, they are from the geographic or the geographic science sectors, and they collaborate. Maybe they're working with the guy in the IT area, and then they create this kind of system or software which can be used to deal with some social or economic issues in our field. So it's like the technique, we just use their techniques, okay? And so for the briefing of GIS, so it's like this is the, I think that's the most top 3 popular geographic or GIS software across the world. One is ArcGIS or QGIS, and also GlassGIS. I never used this one before. Used a little bit about ArcGIS, and however, in this subject, we will focus on the QGIS because they are free download. And this is some tips while you do the GIS. So it's just give you idea. So it's still, GIS is just a software tool, right? And also, while you import the data, it's not like the GIS cannot generate the spatial data. If you are going to use GIS analyze the models or analyze some issues, you will still have your own spatial data. Or maybe the GIS can generate spatial data, however, it's too complicated. And if you just apply this one or use this one to analyze some issues in property sector, you should have you should use the existing spatial data, okay? And again, so probably it requires a little bit your own knowledge and capacity to use the GIS software. And okay, probably we just stop here and have a break. Then the rest of this lecture, we just quickly go through some basic functions of QGIS, and then we can practice the GIS in the tutorials. Okay, so we come back in 10 minutes. So maybe 11. So again, have any student hasn't submit the presentation registration form, please do it as soon as possible. Okay, so simply just click on the Dropbox, share the link, and send you to your email address and submit fill up the group registration form and submit to the Dropbox file. Okay, and we expect it can all be done by Sunday. So if student hasn't attend today's lecture, and if you listen to the online recording, please do so.对。
所以就是你当做这个 model 出来的时候，你必须有2个地点，对，这是一个地点。
不是，这是一个地点，2个坐标确定一个地点，就最大的区别就是说，你如果 go back to 不是从最第一页，就是这个地方，就是说它这种 cross sectional data 是说，就是说它不去分析这个490万是不是影响这个330万，就这个影响，它在 special cross sectional 它就是 assume 是没有的。然后这个 spatial data 呢，也就是说我们不知道有没有，对，我们就是说把这个影响也含进去了，就是说，好比说490万，怎么好比说我们先说这个330万，这个330万是怎么被其他的价位影响？就是说这个里边好比说30个数据，那么影响它的就有29个。就是说对它产生29个影响，然后总和，这个在 cross section 的data，就是说这是一个变量。
就是如果是 sectional 的话，它就只是
研究它是怎么被横着的，对，就是说它怎么横着的这些变量影响它的，对，对，然后它这个是说呢，就是说好比这33万，除了这个在这个横着的这些变量影响到，它还被在这个数字里边，除去它之外，剩下的这些东西也影响它。然后呢，我们就
得到了这样子的一
个对，可以下边这个东西，就是这个，
它只是一个坐标，它只是这一个。
对，就是这是一个嘛，所以它就一串数，所以我就说麻烦，你是做一个价格，你要考虑其他28个或者29个对它的影响。同样的，就是说你有29个数，这样呢你就会产生29组这个。就是说，这只是对其中的一个价位。
就是其实最后做出来的东西是有30个。对。然后这个它就是另外就是 I 减1。对，
就是这个意思。
它就是其实每个都是不一样得出来的。
对。
但是就是要怎么样把这个东西变成单格式？
对，然后那个就是用这种方法，就 spatial language，就是我们用矢量变成方法，就是我给每一个数都给它一个权重。然后呢，我们把这些加权的和求出来，然后就是说这一个数是由，就如果在刚才那个里边说这一个数是由28个加权的和变成的，就是对于
就是每一个都会有一个这个。
对。然后就是这么个意思，就所以说它这个计算是相当复杂，而且这个 GIS 它实际上它是不处理这些东西，就是说我们处理这些东西还是要用这种统计数据，就或者说现在 GIS 它可能接了它你是可以下载那个叫什么分析包的什么，你可以把它用，但是它用了。不是 GIS 的，它独有的东西，而是用的这个统计 regression 的这些东西。就是说我当时做这个 spatial analysis， 实际上我是偏这个方向，就是说做这种东西，并不是 mapping。就是说 GIS 实际上它的特质，它给你一个直观的 visualization，就是说他们把这些东西，因为我们做这些东西，它都是些实际上我们是在讨论一个3维甚至4维的东西，就是说你很难用一个平面图把它表现出来。还有 GIS 因为它是一个仿3维的，就是说它可能就是这个视觉效果啊什么的，在展示上会更清晰，而且它对一些这种距离的信息，它可能处理的更简单一些。就是一会儿我们会讲的
到时候就是那 GIS 就是他自己会给你们
对，它就不就是说在 GIS 里边这个框是相当小的，它可能就是说它就把这个一个点儿一个点儿，对，而且它这个点儿是一个是通用的，就是世界各国用 GIS 都是 adopt 就是这同一个 standard，就是说你好比说你在这儿做的东西，你去放到别的地方，它也是一个意思，就是它是在那里边，它一个单位的 spatial unit 是一样，它要么是公里，要么是米，就是说是这些统一的，不像我们，就是说你如果对，我们那个是自由定的，有可能根据我们的一些想法，我们觉得2乘2就可以，或者说我们有的5乘5怎么样，就是说这可能是对 by case。然后但是 GIS 呢，就是说它给你一个相当小的，然后又统一的，然后你如果想要那样，你可以再设定一个，就是说那个 GIS 那个它给了你一个，就是
更小的倍数，
对，就只要你有那么小的 data， 它就能算出来，就是说它的那个是相当的精确的。而且它是和这种实际的 location 是 match， 就是说像我们这个，实际上还是说它是一个很感性的，还是很 conceptual 的，对吧？我们说 IG 什么的，它不是说 box 你把它放到 carton 你这么分也是这个意思，对，它不是那么很 relative 的一个东西，但 GIS 不是，它是。好多自己的这些地方。
明白。好的。
不客气。哦，哪一个？没有，没有。哦，那我把你的记下来。这里边没有你们组是吗？这些里边。啊，好，哪个是这样？这个是吧？好嘞，我记下，不客气。No.
We just need to identify, because I'm working on the apartment market. So what we need to do is to identify why some of the software is expensive, more expensive than the others.
Yeah,
That's
so
what we have to do.
So what we do for this subject analysis is more visualized. So it's not so accurate like a statistical analysis.
Because I have tried, so I registered for the restricted data already, and I just use like May 2019 data to find or something like that, and we find that the price in this suburb is much higher than the others. So can we just investigate why their price is higher? Is it what the base is all about?
It depends on which is your main analysis tool. Because the thing is that your topic can be done for like cross-section data.
Yeah.
So, however, if you are going to do like spatial analysis, it's like you cannot just use house price only.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah,
link to
actually,
other
actually
income population.
I know.
That's good.
But if we are going to include income and the neighbor characteristics, can we still include the number of bedroom and bathroom, etc.?
What do you mean?
So can we like it together, like the price and the relationship with the number of bedroom and number of bathroom, and then the crime rate of each suburb and the living standard or ranking of each suburb. They can all be done in the same order.
Yes. I mean, however, you got to show in the map.
Okay.
So if you do so, if you gonna show in the map, you know what I mean? Yeah, in the map, we. So it's like if you are going to, so this should not be your final findings.
Yeah, it's just like
data description.
Description and why we are going to do that, and give us some like brief ideas. So. Which direction we should invest?
It's like okay, probably just say whether there is any special difference between the house price and relating all the potential influential factors, as you mentioned, the crime rates and income.
Yeah.
Is it only for one suburb or?
I'm looking for doing the inner Melbourne suburbs.
How many suburbs? So in that case, you can hardly just focus on one suburb, because in that case, it won't give you any spatial pattern.
It's 59.
59 suburbs. Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's okay.
All I need is to add the primary or other categories.
Yeah. So probably you will give the color, use the coloring to show the distribution.
Do we need to show that already inside the assignment?
No.
We just need to give a brief description of what we observed from the original.
Yes.
Just like what I have done.
Maybe not this one.
Not this one.
Yeah, maybe not. No, I mean.
Not only this one.
No. Maybe you don't have to show this one in assignment 2. So if you show that, it's good because you are hiding.
We don't really need to do this in assignment 2.
In assignment 2, it's just your one.
Oh, I see. I thought I would have to.
No. This is a pretty much. This is pretty. No. It's a pretty much what you do for your assignment 3.
Okay.
So that's what I see. You are hiding of the schedule.
I see. I thought. Okay.
Right. So and then the assignment 4 is the final of everything.
Okay.
So because we haven't touched on this one, how can I require you guys do this?
No.
I'm not that irrational.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, the rest of this lecture, probably we just go through some very basic information and the functions while we using GIS or QGIS for our spatial data analysis. Can I know how many of you guys want to use the spatial analysis for your final report? 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Yeah, because what I'm planning for, because if you are going to use the spatial analysis for your final report, we have a little bit different assessment or requirement. So we do not require you have a very like the students who using cross-sectional or time series analysis. We need a very complicated theoretical model, because we do not require you guys to run any regression for your spatial analysis. What you guys may produce at the end of this subject is maybe you can find out what is the however, the final results should be present on the map rather than just a figure or tables. You should present your findings on a map, and maybe or several maps to show the spatial distributions, to show some the spatial, as we mentioned, spatial clusters, and even spatial patterns between variables. And the analysis, on top of the basic analysis, statistical analysis on the data, we do not require you to do any regression analysis for the spatial data. It's mainly rely on what we call is a non-parameter analysis or non-parameter discussion. Is visualized. It's for example, you compare the distribution between two variables, so you say what are the common, different, and then develop your arguments on that kind of common or different stuff, or is there any potential relationship between two variables or several variables? That's kind of based on the visualization of your mapping of your mapping on the GIS. So we do not require you provide any very concrete statistical calculation on the relationship. However, you still require to do statistical analysis for the single variables. Okay. All right. So introduction to QGIS is we can download the QGIS through the website. The thing is that for this one is even though you are not using the spatial analysis for your assignment 4, you will be required to provide one mapping for assignment 3. So it's any related mapping, a map to your topic. For example, you are going to do a house price. Maybe you can provide maybe if you cannot find the spatial data for house price, maybe some spatial data for the population or for the income, anything. So what we want to assess in assignment 3 is you know the basic function of QGIS. That's it. If you are not using this one as your major analysis method, okay. Therefore, I think every one of us has to download the QGIS, or maybe you can just use the one in the light. And then I mean, also on the website, it gives you much useful information in regard with the GIS, like how they define the coordinator reference system, what are the major types across the world, or currently we adopt, etc. And once you once you download the QGIS, then we can just open a new project in the software. Okay, so it's like you go project, and what if you haven't done anything, it will automatically give you one. And the first thing for this is like you should find like a base layer. So it's like the GIS. Although I'm not the IT professional or expert, but my understanding is the GIS is like you adding layers on the mapping on the map. So for example, at the beginning is a blank, and then you add a base map. So that means you will have a map of the common geographic information for your project. For example, you can use because of the QGIS, it has some already installed base map. Like this one is it's called OpenStreetMap, and if you then you can it already collect much geographic information on the map. So like here. So and also you can zoom in the maps. And one function is very important. Is which one? I think here, which called a full map. I normally use Control Shift and F. So it gives back to you the original looking or the full view of your mapping. So if you just are lost where you are, you can just find the whole view of your map or of your project. And if you do not like the installed baseline, you can also you download other options through like a plugin. Because in my version, I don't have that one. However, I mean, it can be achieved like you just use plugin. You can find an open layers function, and then when you add this function in, you can find more options through the internet. It's like you can download the base map from other from the existing website, and also you can download more base map or maybe more specific base map from the institution. For example, if you just want to do some analysis across Melbourne, maybe you can download the base map of Melbourne in maybe ABS or some. I think there is one called Profile Data, which is also public access, and you may find the proper map for your base map and for your project. So that is the base map. Once we got the base map, it's like shoot. So the base map has
already contains the most of geographic information for the street, for the location. For example, we got all the road, the streets, the transport. I think the transport already, and also the rivers, the parks, and some public facilities in the map. Okay, they're already sitting there, and then if we see, then we can import our own spatial data for our project. So mainly there are two types of spatial data. One is CSV, which is similar to the Excel sheet. It's like this way. Week 5. So it's like like here. That's just unused for an example. And I will upload this one to the LMS for you to do some practice. I mean, for students who do not rely on the spatial data analysis for your project. Okay, and then you may have the value. Most importantly, in the CVS file, you must have the longitude and longitude coordinator. Okay, and this one can be read by the GIS software or QGIS. How can we import or add layer of we just use add layer and please do choose the delimited text layer. Okay, and then you can find out the file you want to import in and click OK, and then that's a CSV file, right? And then you will choose those options according to your data. For example, the first record has the names. For my example, it has the name, right? So we just we take this box and also double check whether the longitude and latitude is the correct, and then we click on it. Then you will find the one is add on your base map. So it's like it's shown here. If we can, you see the green dot here, and then we can use the right click to add to formatting or to editing the markers, the color, and if you are not just the point, maybe some of your spatial data is for a region, maybe you can also formatting the colors, and also just to make it, then it becomes bigger. That's all the data we add on the map. It indicates the house transaction and the type of properties. And if we click and yes, save, and then save your project. Okay, I mean, I don't know whether the GIS has automatic
saving function. However, what I did is that I save it every time I do one activity. So it's like we save this one, or we already got this one. So maybe we call this week 5. Week 5 lecture. Then we save the project. And also, you can use the function which called open attribute table to browsing the data you imported. I mean, this one may not so useful while you import the CVS file. However, if you just you import the shape file, I mean, you can use this function to see what is the details under the data. Okay, and there were some functions we may use. One is change the markers or the colors, and another thing maybe is useful is like categorizing. So it's like if we click on categorize, and then we choose, because this column we choose the one we want to categorize, which is maybe property type, and then it gives us, okay, that's house, unit, so all the data will be classified or categorized by the value under the name or under the attributes. So the attributes we choose is a property type, and for this data, we only have 2 values. One is house and another is unit. And then if we click apply, and this gives another layer based on the week 5 lecture layer. Okay. And we can untick those boxes if we just want to see, oh, what are the distribution of houses. We can untick the unit and just display on the map, and also we can change different markers to make it more apparent. Maybe we use the diamond to show the unit, and the round to indicate the house. Okay, this is one, and then maybe we save, and this is classifying, and also if we already have like shape file. So, for example, download this this metro train station, the location of all the train stations in Melbourne, and from the Orange, and then I can, for this one, we can directly drag it to the QGIS, and we just choose the file which is shape file, and then click OK. Then on the baseline, it gives us another layer. So see if we untick the house price, then all the green dots, they show the train station locations. And for these ones, maybe we can give
it another name. So rename layer, like train station, and maybe we also want to property. Also want to change its marker. Maybe we use this one. Oh, it's too big. Then it shows us the train station here, and because this is the kind of maybe shapefile, we cannot see, if we haven't seen the details in the ORI, maybe we can see the detail or browsing the details in the GRS. So which we open the attributes table, then it shows us what are the attributes being contained by the data. So it's like here we got stop ID. I mean, maybe that's the stop ID for each train station. That's what's this? Oh, that's the suburb, and also that's the longitude, and that's the zoom for that where the station located. So this one is zoom 2, and zoom 2 and 1. So I don't know one is, I think the box queue is located in zoom 1 and 2. So when you come from the city, that's zoom 2, and when you come back, that's zoom 1. Towards the city, this zoom 1 is a latitude, and also it has the name of that station. All right. So in that case, that's what we can browse in the basic function. And what else I want to see? Classify formatting. I think one of the most important function which we may use for our project, for this subject, is generate the difference. As I just mentioned, is like it can help us generate the distance automatically or as a whole. We don't have to calculate the distance between houses or between the house and one or several fixed locations. What we do is that we have to click on the layer, and then we go vector. That gives us some analysis tools. We go analysis tool, and then it's called the distance metric, and we choose the target, which is week 5 example GIS, and then we want to calculate, maybe here we calculate the transactions, and also with transactions. So it gives us the pairwise distance across all the properties we imported in the GIS, and we want to the distance be presented in a matrix. Okay, so then we click on volume, and then it generates a distance matrix with CV, and then we can also export the distance. we can save it as a layer for our future. Where is it? Export. See this one. Yeah, and then we can choose the file we want to, the file format we want to export. Here we use the CSV, which is Excel, and then we can give him a name and save it. So in that case, if we click on the file we just estimate, we can find that it gives us the power distance. I mean, probably we just change the format. Okay, and I think this one, the unit is a meter, and so it's like right. I'm just yeah, I just made a mistake, because when I choose to generate the distance, I choose as the value, which can hardly read in the Excel. So what we did is that we should export or generate the distance based on something we can easily identify the data. I mean, where I use actually I gives the ranking or the numbers of data, which called the sample number, and then we run it. So it's like in the original data set, it not only has the property type, but I give them sample data, which can be easily identify the piece of data we are talking about. I mean, sometimes it's automatically contains content by your original data, like maybe address, or maybe the name as we see in the train station file. Every train station has an ID or a name to identify the data. However, for this one, I just give them a number, a random number is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in that case, I can go back to the original data to based on the sample data, because I mean either the transaction or the property types, they cannot identify a piece or single piece of data clearly. So in that case, we got another distance matrix. Which one is the new one? Probably this one. And then we export it. Not that one. Sorry. So this is a very bad example, because I haven't given the rename the layer for the rename the new layer. That's why I confused. So it's like we export, save file name. But anyway, it's So maybe we just I'll just show you through the through the attributes. So here we can find that's distance. So this one you can directly find the distance of the exact property. So that's one which is 31, and the property with 7. The distance is like 37 kilometers. Okay. So that's I think that's basic. The function I want to talk about for your GIS, QGIS. I mean you can get more familiar with the software during the tutorial. I mean, and Niraj and I will also walking around in the tutorial. If you have any questions, just let us know. So one thing is that I have to emphasize is that even you using the GIS, you should combine the GIS with other software. Okay, unless you can install some because the GIS has a very basic statistical analysis form. However, it doesn't mean if you use a GIS, it doesn't mean you have to do spatial analysis. You can use this one as a supplement tool, even if you are using cross-sectional data analysis. For example, by using the generating distance, probably you can import that distance into your cross-sectional data analysis, like where? Like here, right? Distance to CBD, right? So in that case, you don't have to manually or repeatedly generate the distance from the Google Map or other methods. Probably you can use it, generate the distance in the GIS, and then use that values in your cross-sectional data analysis. All right. Okay, that's pretty much for today's lecture. Thank you very much for your attending, and to students who haven't submit your form registrations, please do it by Sunday this week. Okay, and that's all. Thank you. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Okay.
Can you call me?
Sorry.
Yes. Do you mind to upload this data set?
No, I will.
To the lens.
No. I will upload before the tutorial.
Oh, okay.
For those spatial data, right?
Yeah.
I will upload.
Yeah, you will do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And another question is so this is the distance data.
Not decent data. So it's kind of what we generated by the GIS based on the spatial data we.
So this point to the other point.
Second. Yes. So it's like see.
So this is the distance.
Yeah, that's the distance. So it's like property 2.
Yeah.
The distance between property 2 and 1 is like 40 kilometers.
Yeah, I see. But how you calculate this? So you use the point 1, if the point one is the house, so you use the latitude, the longitude.
Yeah.
So how you define
The latitude and the longitude, right?
yeah.
So that's not an.
How this figure can represent a house? Because a house is maybe if the house is very large, so how you use the latitude longitude to represent
That's
a house?
actually that's a good question. However, that is not the thing we can resolve. It's like well they create. I mean the IT guys or the GIS
So
guys.
they use the middle point or
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, they must have their rules.
Okay.
Maybe.
So I guess if they use the maximal point, I mean the point after this point, if more this number, so it's more accurate.
Yes, of course. However, it has a very high standard requirement for either your the computer
Okay.
or the software or even when you do the inspection of the geographic. So it's like of course the smaller of the unit, the more accurate is it's kind of
So this number is longer.
it's not
It's
what?
longer. It's longer. I mean
No, it's not a big.
and not the distance, the longitude, latitude.
No, I don't mean this number is longer. Is that I mean the spatial unit. I mean once the spatial unit has been identified, that's it. I mean the accurate error or the accurate percentage is that. It doesn't mean what's the how many decimal the interval of the decimal. It doesn't matter. It all depends on how big is the spatial unit they defined in their GIS or in their.
Okay.
So we just.
So it depends on
So
GIS guys.
we just using their software, right? So we are not. So it's
No
like
need to know the.
I mean, I mean, the principle I has already mentioned in the lecture is like how we create remember the quantity unit or spatial unit.
Yes.
They adopt the same procedure.
Okay.
However, it's just like they have advanced technology. They can create a much accurate spatial unit in the GIS. That's why we use the GIS because we don't have that technique.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like something out of our control. So long as the technology progress, the GIS information will be more accurate. So just think about it, because we now are all talking about big data, AR. It's like if we can scan, like normally we do it is we still do the manually scan of the location, or if it can be scanned through the satellite. It's very accurate, and then the GIS or the GIS information will be more accurate. However, that's not our issue. It's not our responsibility.
Okay.
We just use what they give us.
Curious.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Actually, that's good. That's kind of spatial analysis.
Yeah, that's very clear.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
刚刚发那个 form，能不能排到上午？下午我们还有别的地方。我看一下还有个几点，我不记得了，反正这个我看10:40好像还有10:40。
没有，现在是要4:50了，然后我们还有个 break，我太累了。哪？
我以为 就是这个是
这这个是我们 break 嘛，我们 break 嘛，那 first session， 我们休息10分钟，然后10:50开始。
12点再加一个呗。
12点不行，12点就没了，这人家下边还有课呢。
上面不能。
我和你女伴去商量一下，如果她不介意的话，
就不建议再加一个。
啊，对，我们就一气儿下来到就是我们从，那就得我们从9点半一直到11点10分。
要不然先记一个我们的名字，如果那个球球觉得小，就加。
你们先搞好再说吧。
老师，我想问一下，就第二个作业，他说用一个数据去反映一个 theory。
啊，对。
这个 theory 是什么
theoretical 就是你的 我不知道您就我们之前。
那比如说我现在要反映那个 hedonic model， 我可以把它当做一个
那就是 theory 啊。
那它比如说它不是那个price 等一大堆 factor 嘛？
对。
对吧？就是我相当于，那我其实什么表格我都可以用这个去反映。就是只要有 price 我就可以拿。
不是你说错，就是说你好比说你的海盗那个 model， 你有一大堆，就是我们最起码有4个最基本的类，对吧？structure，
什么 location，neighborhood，
还有一个 land。就是说我们在 assignment 2的时候，就是说你这4个东西到底是想用什么样的 parameter 去反映它？就好比说我们 structure， 我们用什么？你可能说我用number of bedroom，number of bathroom，number of garage 这些东西我去，就是说它更具体。就好比说 neighborhood， 今天我们课上讲的 neighborhood， 我们反映的就是说我用 number of
相当于就是我现在我找这个 neighborhood， 我认为 neighborhood 会影响我的销售价格，我用什么东西去代表 neighborhood 的？
对，
然后去找这个 data。
对，找这个 data， 而且这个东西你得说你得讲出点道理，对吧？你不能说哇就随便的，也可能是你也可以是，就是说2种方法，就是你找到什么 data， 对吧？然后你再给这个 data。去想它是不是，他就说你找了一个什么distribution of professional， 对吧？就是说人们这个工作，在这个区域里边，他们这些人都是做什么工作，对吧？因为这也可以反映他的一个neighborhood。但是说你得说出一套你的理论来，为什么这个东西它会影响好的事情？你不能说我就是觉得
反正我就给他自圆其说嘛，反正
对，可以这么说吧。
然后还有就是他那个 poster， 他不是说相当于你要说你这个，他不是后面还有工作要做吗？就是其他的assignment，他是不是那种就是那个 poster 要说你之后的工作要做什么？
对，那是最重要的一点。就是我们的要求，我记得提头要讲，我们希望你们能给出一个 flow chart， 就是说用这种形状呀、箭头呀，就是我们现在的对，就是 mind map， 就是说真正我们叫出来了 flow chart， 就是说我们现在在这儿，或者说这个问题是从这儿开始的，然后要进行第2步怎么着，第3步怎么着，第4步最后怎么着，然后我们现在可能处在哪个地方，就大概就是这个东西。
那进入相当于第2个作业是一部分是要去证明这个，就是证明那个 theory， 然后一部分是说你整体思路是吧？
对，其实不是证明，就是说你的 theory 是什么。也不是说证明，就是你产生下边这个表是建立在一个什么 theory 上，就是这个意思。大概是这个意思，然后你说这个是这个 theory， 这个 theory 呢，我怎么去在现实中把它测试一下，或者说
相当于我这第2作业就是完成一半，后面的具体的我还会做，等下一个。
对，就第2个作业就是说不需要你们给我很多实际上的东西，对，就可能你告诉我们大概你找什么样的数据，大概能不能找到，万一找不到怎么办？就是基本上就是这个，就是你做一个叫什么规划之类的，就 plan， 对，就是那种计划类似的，对。
好的。
第2作业不用数据啊？
就是当然你提供数据是更好了，就说明你ahead了。
拜拜。
拜拜。 Sorry. Yes. I missed to submit my first assignment because my wife giving birth for my daughter.
All right.
And
Congratulations.
thank you. But because in pregnancy condition,
Yeah.
so my daughter still in hospital.
The thing is that you just send the request for extension to reach to attached with the doctor instruction. It's like okay. Just as evidence.
Yeah.
Then-
I mean,
then-
I want to apply for the like special extension for the submission.
For the first assignment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Just, however, I don't have the authority to
Okay.
grant the extension.
Yeah.
But you can send to Purish.
The
The
subject
coordinator.
coordinator.
Yeah. He will say okay, yes, and then probably you just send me your assignment one through the email. I got my email.
Also, I have to email
I
the
think
subject
is
first.
is the assignment
Yes.
closed?
Yeah.
Is it
it's
closed?
already
Right?
closed.
Yeah, maybe I will see whether I can reopen it. If it doesn't work,
Maybe I will send the email to the subject coordinator first.
Yes,
And
sure,
then
sure.
if
Of
he
course.
granted my request, then I will send it to you.
I'm pretty sure he will.
Yeah.
Very.
Sorry about that.
Is a girl or boy?
Girl.
No. You